They wear full-body protective suits to shield them from hazardous chemicals and toxic materials. It's tough to manipulate tools. Visibility is limited. With compressed air tanks strapped to their backs and unique high-tech gear inside and out, the suits become hot, clumsy, heavy, and physically exhausting. Just a block from the 84th Street exit of I-94 is a firehouse officially known as Engine Company 25. But the equipment and the firefighters housed here also make up a squad of specialists, experts in dealing with chemical emergencies.
As the 80s exposed us to our chemical dependentness, there's been a lot more accidents through transportation, through just actual handling and use. And for that, the fire department realized that we had to have groups of individuals to respond to those types of emergencies and be able to handle them properly.
From 12 firefighters and a station wagon in 1980, the Hazardous Materials Unit now numbers about 80 members covering 3 shifts. The emergency vehicles include an RV look-alike that serves as a mobile command center. They'll respond quickly. But once on the scene of a chemical emergency, they proceed very deliberately. With computer programs and other materials, they research the chemicals they've encountered from the thousands in use today.
We work very safely so that we're not going to be putting any of our individuals at risk, and we also provide that extra margin of safety in doing an analysis of what the chemicals can do as far as harm to the citizens or the surrounding areas.
Specialized equipment includes the different types of chemical-resistant suits worn by firefighters at accident sites. The type of suit and procedure they follow depends on the type of chemical involved.
Because the best way we can protect ourselves is by taking the time to make sure we identify the substance. Once we identify the substance, we have to make sure that the chemicals don't have any incompatibilities with anything else around it. Once we've identified that, we spend a lot of time to make sure we can protect our people in the right positive or personal protective equipment that we can provide. And that's through suit identification and compatibilities and things along those lines where we give our members the best level of protection we have. What we tried to go to in the 1990s are disposable suits. We buy suits from the best companies that are out there, and we have that suit, and what we want to be able to do is discard that suit when we're done with it. The reason being, if we have a reusable suit, we have to bring it back, decontaminate it, and it takes a long process, and we're never really sure if it's totally decontaminated. An environment that are on an extremely hazardous substance, we'd much rather take that suit and get rid of it. All of the suits have a breakdown time for any chemical, and we have to make sure that the compatibility of the suit to the chemical gives us that greatest time of protection. Otherwise, you can actually see the suit degrade, and we've seen that.
He's totally self-contained. His air pack is inside. There's no outside atmosphere contamination at all, and he's not going to get in contact with any outside atmosphere or air. He's got a radio. You saw us put the radio on inside the suit. If we wanted to talk to him, we could talk to him while he's in there.
Every day throughout Metro Milwaukee, there are railroad shipments of dangerous chemicals. Thousands of gallons of explosive and toxic liquids are carried by trucks on our streets and freeways.
A minor call would be a simple thing like gasoline that you drive around with in your car. A major incident would be a chemical plant where they have a variety of chemicals and there's some mixture, and now we need the resources that are available on site because chemicals change when they react with each other, and it takes a long time for us to identify that product.
There are a lot of times also when we respond to an unknown. Truck might not be placarded. Personnel might not be on the location of an emergency. A lot of your train derailments, everything gets flipped around and you really don't know what you're dealing with right away. It takes a little time to sort everything out.
Before and after working, the firefighters' vital signs are checked by paramedics. After cleaning up a chemical spill or toxic waste problem, they often stand in plastic kiddie pools while colleagues decontaminate their suits with detergents. By the way, other communities in southeast Wisconsin are not without such protection. The state pays Milwaukee a retainer of $300,000 a year for the highly trained hazmat team to respond to regional emergencies.
We are presently in a state response system, and with the state responder system, we are contracted to respond anywhere in the state actually, but our primary response area is 5 counties, which includes Milwaukee County, Jefferson, Washington, Waukesha, and Ozaukee County. And when they have a spill and they feel that it's beyond their capabilities, they will give us a call, we'll respond and assist them in remediating the emergency.
But when we're gone, the City of Milwaukee residents are still protected because as soon as our team is activated, we recall members to reestablish Engine 25 as a secondary hazmat unit, as a first-line fire response unit, and as a first-line EMS unit. So no one is left without protection in the city.
Milwaukee has many companies which use chemicals. The city also has Engine Company 25, firefighters with the training and state-of-the-art equipment needed for hazardous chemical emergencies.
The benefit that we have in hazardous materials is the benefit of time normally. And a lot of people and companies don't understand that when we shut down I-94 for 10 hours, that we have to make sure we identify that product and protect our members before we put anybody in there. And by taking that time and that effort, we're not just protecting our members, we're protecting every citizen that lives around that area.
Just like your car, the best way to keep your furnace running smoothly is with an annual tune-up by a qualified contractor. That checkup is especially important on older furnaces to make sure there isn't a problem with carbon monoxide emissions. Carbon monoxide is produced by the combustion of fuel. It reduces the amount of oxygen carried by the blood. You can't taste, smell, or see it, but there are telltale signs.
Yeah. The typical symptoms are flu-like, including nausea, headache, fatigue, and these symptoms usually disappear once the person is removed from the indoor or immediate area that's affected. So if people are experiencing those symptoms and notice that they are quickly alleviated upon going outside or leaving the area, then chances are there may be a problem with indoor air quality, including the presence of carbon monoxide.
Carbon monoxide detectors can range from a $4 test kit to detectors costing $50 or more. The more sophisticated devices mimic the blood's response to the toxic gas, sounding an alarm before concentration levels become dangerous. Milwaukee Fire and Health Departments stand ready to respond to any problem.
Well, certainly they can call the health department for technical assistance and advice, but we recommend that a test be done. The health department has available small test kits that can be placed in any portion of the home to monitor for the gas. And indeed, if there does appear to be levels of any level of carbon monoxide in the home, to call the health department, the fire department, Wisconsin Gas, or a furnace contractor, and proceed accordingly and have it looked at.
If you're in the market of purchasing a carbon monoxide detector, we advocate that you have one per living level, similar to what we advocate for smoke detectors. In most situations, carbon monoxide is going to detect a problem near an appliance. And if you have a furnace in the basement, hot water heater, a gas dryer, more than likely you want to have a carbon monoxide detector in the basement area. If you have a gas stove on the first floor, you probably want to have a carbon monoxide detector near that gas appliance as well. Also, it could be a problem at night if you're sleeping. So having a carbon monoxide detector near the sleeping areas is also a pretty good idea. One thing that we also recommend is that people read the instructions of the owner's manual, because there's a lot of good information listed in there as well.
While CO detectors can be an effective safety device, they have caused some controversy. Numerous unexplained alarms were reported when Chicago passed a law in 1994 requiring the detectors in most homes. As a result, newer detectors are not supposed to go off from levels that are considered harmless or from various household products.
Again, most of the commercially available detectors are set to go off at 100 parts per million, and the ones that are accredited or tested by the underwriter's laboratory, I think for the most part are fairly accurate. And so I would take certain precautions if there was an alarm or some type of warning system put in place.
A prudent approach to safeguarding your home will include a number of actions. Have a professional check all combustion fuel appliances to make sure they are not leaking and are properly ventilated. Be aware of all the potential sources of carbon monoxide. A car warming up in an attached garage could set off an alarm. Investigate the detector before you buy it. Make sure you are installing it properly, and if it does sound an alarm,
Well, what you should do is, call the fire department, dial 911, and if you can also notify your gas company, those are two very good ideas. What the fire department will do when we arrive is we'll try to get a reading of the amount of carbon monoxide that may be in the atmosphere. If a person comes across an emergency where they want to call us, I would suggest them not opening up doors. I would suggest them leaving the house and waiting for us to arrive so that we can get an accurate reading of what may be going on within that household.
been checking the want ads lately, finding an apartment that seems to be available but are told it is not? Have you been turned down for employment and believe it's the result of discrimination? When a person is treated less favorably than others because of membership in one of the protected classes. Complaints of discrimination are the responsibility of the Equal Rights Commission, 5 city residents appointed by the mayor, confirmed by the Common Council. They try to eliminate or remedy any violations through persuasion by using mediators or the courts.
Don't feel intimidated by it. I think sometimes that's a problem, and if people feel that they're working with the government, they're going to be intimidated and not call. Call. Let us know what the problem is. And then the staff person, who has a very strong background in her work, will give advice, and possibly they're calling the wrong phone number. Maybe they should be calling someone else. But at least that determination can be made, and they can be led in the right direction rather than just ignore it.
With allegations of discrimination in housing, the city often calls on the Metropolitan Milwaukee Fair Housing Council for help. They send out testers, usually a white couple and a minority couple, to quiz the landlord.
And they will send out people who have similar financial backgrounds so that when they do the credit check and references and all that sort of thing, it all checks out and it's all the same. And in most situations, it will be that the African-American housing applicant will be told that there's no housing available. Gee, I just rented it. I'd love to be able to rent to you, but I can't. The white applicant comes in after that, and they check everything out, and then they call them up and say, sure, you can have it. No problem. And then they're caught.
Commissioners have no testing procedure to look into alleged employment discrimination, but they say it certainly exists, and it's their job to let employers know it's against the law.
The qualified workers are out there, but the companies just, in many cases, feel it isn't necessary to hire these people because they can hire somebody else who they feel may be more comfortable with. I'm not sure how else to word it, but it's blatant discrimination, and they have to be aware of the fact that it's not right, and somebody has to be telling these people that it's wrong.
In some ways, the Milwaukee Equal Rights Commission mirrors activities at the state or federal level. But while they have similar responsibilities, they can differ in the protection they offer. For example,
The federal law prohibits discrimination in employment if you have, I believe, 5 employees or more. They have to do that to avoid constitutional problems. It also does not prohibit discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation, whereas Wisconsin law and city law does. So there'll be some areas in which discrimination will fall through the cracks as far as federal law is concerned. And that's where the city of Milwaukee or the state of Wisconsin can come in, because we don't have those limitations.
During 1995, the Equal Rights Commission and staff investigated more than a dozen cases and answered over 500 educational and informational questions.
I think the commission has the wherewithal to make a difference and to keep pounding people on the head and saying we have to have fair employment in the city and fair housing. I don't think we can just go on and ignore the problems. There's major problems out there.
It's imperative that the city say not only do we condemn discrimination, but we're actively going to do something to fight discrimination. I think it's also important because of something that I mentioned earlier. The majority of the people that we reach are not going to be assisted by the legal system because they can't afford to pay for the legal system. In addition, it doesn't benefit the city to have people living in poor housing conditions or to have people being terminated from jobs or treated unfairly in their jobs. It benefits us to have people that want to live here, that have good places to live and good places to work.